Hey, I have a question for you. You ever get a reed that looks like these? Maybe a bit wavy on the end, and really not know what happened or how it happened or why? Maybe you feel like throwing them into the wall. That's what I feel like doing once in a while. Well, I'll tell you what. There's a couple things you can do with your reeds in order to alleviate this little wavy warp problem. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to do it. Here's the first way. You could try this, and it's pretty satisfying, really, and you can get it over with. Now that way tends to be more expensive in the long run. So what I think is that we maybe have a couple other solutions that would help you save some money and hopefully make your reeds work better on a regular basis. Here's what I got for you. In this box, I have the solution to all of your reed troubles. Well, probably not all of them, but I'll tell you what. This box has helped me out significantly ever since I've tried using this technique to help maintain my reeds. Now this box is called a salt box. All it is a Tupperware container. Contains all of my reeds for one instrument, and what I do is I keep them in here in an airtight container, and this helps them so they don't warp and they actually last longer. Now, there's a couple components that this box has. Now, once again, you can see my reeds. I'm going to take those guys out. I have my tenor saxophone reeds in here. But what is in here is basically two elements. This is an actual sock, an old sock, and it's filled full of rock salt. The other part of this box is a sponge, and the sponge contains moisture. Now what happens with the reeds when you put them away after you get done, if you just put them in your case or put them in a plastic case, they dry out really, really fast, especially if you're in areas with low humidity or it's winter out and the heat's on. And so when you get those reeds wet, they get those ripples and the warps in them. And what happens is that the reed does not vibrate as efficiently on the mouthpiece because it's got this warpage in it and it's got a leak. And you can simply test with that from a pop test. You can go check another video out on some other reed maintenance. But what happens with the salt box is that we control the humidity and the length of time that it takes for the reed to dry out. And by doing this, we allow it to dry slow, so that when we get it wet again, it doesn't warp as often, or it's not as prone to. Now the biggest thing in here is just kind of to balance the moisture between the sponge and the salt, because the salt is going to kill any mold or anything, mildew, any kind of gross stuff. Now, let me show you what happens when you don't control it. You've probably all seen this before, especially if you live in humidity. Look at this guy. Oh yeah, that one has got some serious mildew and mold in there. Not a nice thing, and I don't think you really want to put those in your mouth all the time. Here are the components to my salt box. Now, really the only thing you have to do is once you have your components laid out is you just need to get the sponge a little bit full of moisture. Now I've got this little camera container which is got about an ounce of water in it, and all you need to do to start slowly. You don't want to get too much water in there because that's going to increase the humidity and of course give you a chance of getting more of that mold and mildew. But here we have the sponge, and I've just poured on about that much. The next thing that you would do is take the sponge. I just put the sponge on the bottom of my salt box, and then I place my rock salt on top of that. And then after you get that done, it just sits there until it dries out. Then I take my reeds, put them in the box on the bottom, just to sort them any way that you need to, and then put the cover on, and you've got your airtight container. After that, if you do find that you get mold or mildew growing, your sponge is probably too wet and you need to take it out and dry it. And then just experiment until you get the right humidity level. Put the salt box together. You can buy rock salt very cheaply. You can use any size container that fits your reeds. I've got another one over here. Try out this method. You're going to find out that your reeds won't warp as often and that they're going to work much more efficiently.